Hey y'all, in this video I want to teach you how to have the best possible experience at a jam session. A jam session is essentially a music social, right? You're going to meet a bunch of musicians socially, personally, and musically with your musical skills. And so you want to be prepared beforehand and know a little bit about the etiquette and the culture so that way you don't commit any faux pas and you can get the most out of it. You can learn the most, okay? So I'm going to give you some tips on how to do that. Let's dive in. First, before you go to the jam session, you want to learn these tunes. And what tunes you want to learn is just several tunes. There's so many different standards out there to learn. You'll be learning standards your whole life, but you should pick several, a handful, maybe 2 or 3 or 4 or 5. I'd say maybe 4 or 5 tunes is a safe bet. Pick 4 or 5 tunes that you know. You know the melody, you know the harmony, you know the form, and you know any of the particulars about that tune, like parts of the a famous arrangement of it. Okay, say a tune like All the Things You Are, very common standard. There's an intro to that tune that folks will play, and so that's something you will specify if you get called up to play that tune. You say, hey, let's do the intro. Or you say, let's not do the intro. Let's play right on the top of the tune, okay? You should be able to specify those things. You should know the tunes well enough to know something about the history of how that song has been traditionally performed throughout time. Okay, that's part of your homework, is to learn tunes before the session. That's number 1. Do not go to the session to show off, to practice on stage. It's not practice. This is a performance. A jam session is still a performance. It just happens that you're performing with people for the first time, like you're going to a party and you're meeting people for the first time, right? You're not there to like practice, okay, my name is such and such. And no, that's not what you do when you go to meet people at the party. You just go there to be yourself. The only way you can be yourself, though, is if you're prepared beforehand, okay? So at the jam session, you're going to, before you get to the jam session, you're going to learn 4 or 5 tunes. You know the melody, you know the harmony, you know the form, you know any specifics about the arrangement. You know what key you played in, especially vocalists know what key you played in, because chances are you don't do it in the standard or original key of the tune. You do whatever works for your voice. You should know that before you get on the bandstand. Don't get on the bandstand and go, oh, what is my key? That's how you get vibed, okay? Vibed in the bad way, right? You can vibe with people having a good time, and you can get vibed, and when you get vibed, it's when people give you this stink eye like, who is this dude? Don't be that person, okay? Or who is this gal? Listen. You want to be prepared before you come to the session. So learn your tunes. That's number 1. I can't emphasize that enough. Learn what tunes you know, and those are your tunes that you're going to, plan to play. Number 2, you get to the session. You're going to meet whoever is the band leader or the host, who the band leader probably is the host. So when you get to a jam session, there's generally a house band that'll play an opening set of their music where it's just the band who will play. And then they'll open up the session to other musicians who are there to play at the jam session. So you want to listen to the house band, enjoy what they're playing and whatnot, because they're professionals. And you want to go meet the band leader on the set break, or when they go and make that announcement, if they have maybe a sign-up sheet. It depends on how loosely or organized this jam session is put together. But you want to go meet the band leader, meet the host, and say, hey, my name is such and such. I want to play this tune. Or I play this instrument, and, they'll eventually call you up either by instrument. It depends on what's going on. Whoever's leading the session, if they're doing a good job, is trying to figure out a way to make everything flow so people who came to sit in and play, everyone gets a chance to do that. And also, the rhythm section gets to cycle out enough because, the rhythm section is going to be playing the whole time for all the tunes. So they want to make sure that, people aren't getting burnt out because there's 10 saxophone players who want to play on Tenor Madness or whatever, which happens more often than you might think, unfortunately. So, come prepared, introduce yourself to the band leader. Number 3, okay, before you play, so say you get called up finally. Okay, Victor, you're going to come up here and now play on this tune, and the saxophone player over there and the trombone player over there. Come on up and play. Okay, so we all just got called up on stage. So it's us 3 horn players and the rhythm section. So now we need to figure out what tune we're going to play on the bandstand. Okay, and so this is where those 4 or 5 tunes you learned. I'm going to say, okay, hey, can we play Solar? And then maybe saxophone player is like, I don't really know that tune. Okay, that's fine. What if we play Billy's Balance? And the piano player's like, oh, I don't know those changes. Well, I don't know why he wouldn't know those changes. But anyway, I don't know those chord changes. Okay, don't worry about it. What if we play All the Things You Are? And everyone's like, oh yeah, we can play that. Cool. Okay, it doesn't take very long to do that, But that's why you want to have these tunes already at the forefront of your mind of, here are the tunes I came to play. Let me call these tunes. Because there's nothing worse than sitting there and like 3 minutes on the bandstand, everyone's like, what tune are we going to play? Don't do that. You guys decide on all the things you are. Great. Then you're going to say, what? Oh, let's do the intro. If you want to do the intro, maybe you say like, hey, let's just start right on the head. Because it's optional. You can do the intro or not do the intro. Just be clear on, we just need to make sure we start together and we end together, okay? Because if you say we're going to do the intro, you're going to expect that the intro will also be used as an outro, okay? And depending on how creative the folks on stage are, the intro might not be a short thing that goes in. You know, it might turn into a vamp. It might turn into like a solo space for the drums. It can go a variety of ways with this music. That's the beauty of it. And as you get more experience playing this music over time, different possibilities open up. But just be clear, hey, let's do the intro. Let's not do the intro, okay? And then you guys start the tune. You're going to count the tune off, especially if you called it. You should count the tune off, right? Give them a little pre-count, right? So I'm counting, snap on 2 and 4. 1, 2, 1, 2, biddy boom, biddy boom, biddy boom, biddy boom, right? That's the intro. Okay, so anyway, I just give a little pre-count off so everyone's ready. I make sure everyone's ready before I start counting. I count, everyone's got the tempo locked in. I count off verbally, and then you move, okay? Give a good count off. Don't give a bad count off because you're gonna get vibed. So, you play the tune. Of course, as you're playing the tune, you're paying attention. You're communicating with people both verbally and also with visual cues and whatnot, right? So, you know, you're coming to the end of the head. Someone's got to take the first solo. Maybe it's you. Maybe it's someone else. But, you know, make eye contact with folks. Or, like, you know, if you're going to take the first solo, step up like you're about to, like, take the stage and take the floor and, like, you know, be assertive and do that. Or if someone else is about to do it, then, like, you know, notice that and then, like, you know, let them take the floor. Okay? And when someone else is playing their solo, you're going to listen to their solo. You're going to pay attention because, you know, you want to hear the beautiful things other people are saying. You want to learn from what they're doing and how they're interacting. Because once again, we're here to have a conversation with music. It's not about showing off. It's definitely not about practicing on stage. You're not here to practice on stage. You're not here to show off all your fancy licks, right? That's not fun at a jam session for anybody. What's fun is when you're actually plugged in and having a conversation. Right? I'm sure you've had conversations with people, like verbal conversations, where you can tell while you're talking, they're thinking of the next thing they're going to say that's going to make them look cool. And those are the lamest people to talk to. Those conversations suck. The same thing with music. If you're thinking about, oh, here's the cool John Coltrane lick I've been practicing. Here it goes. Man, that's so lame. Be in the moment and like play off of the players around you. Then you can make really interesting decisions that you can only make because you're listening to those people, right? And that's what it's about, is capturing the moment. That's the essence of this music, is improvising and being in the moment, okay? During the tune, say you didn't take the first solo, saxophone player took the first solo. They're playing, and then pay attention near the end of the form each time they go through the form of a tune, because if they're going to end it, if they're doing their job, they're going to make it pretty clear that there might be ending. So be ready to like play and pick it up after that. There's nothing that looks sillier than like someone finishes a solo and the other player's like, oh wait, are you next? Am I next? And there's like 8 bars of dead space because people are indecisive. Pay attention, right? You guys are spontaneously composing together. And so in order for that to be effective, you have to be an active participant, which means actively listening. Oh, he's about to end his solo. He's winding down his solo. So I'm going to go pick it up right after he comes off. Because that's what you do. We pass it off to the next person, okay? And then everyone's taking their solos, who wants to play a solo. And then someone needs to signal, hey, let's go to the head, right? So here's the symbol that, you know, to go to the head or to the top, whatever you might point your head, right? The top of the melody. And so you'll do that. You'll play the head. And then if there was an intro, you'll automatically go into the intro as the outro. Or, you know, there's a variety of ways to end tunes. That's another part of communicating with the band and, like, listening and understanding. That's something else that I'm not going to try to address in this particular video. But just pay attention and keep your head on a swivel and keep your ears open. And then you play the tune. And after you finish playing the tune, say, hey, I enjoyed playing with y'all. And then, you know, maybe once you guys get off the bandstand, if you're only playing one tune, depends on how the jam session goes. You might play multiple tunes when you get called up. You might play just one tune and then go sit back down. But as you're there at the jam session, take the time to meet other musicians who are there and like just like talk to people and get to know who they are and like what they do and you know, like I said, it's a social situation. It's not just about playing. It's also about like talking and having a good time and the communal nature of community. So you meet people when you're out there, and like, you know, when you're not playing, also pay attention to what other people are playing when they're up there on the bandstand and you're not on the bandstand, because that's going to give you a chance to learn something while you're not in the process of doing, right? It's a different kind of awareness and paying attention when you're up there and you have to be ready to play versus when you're not playing. Pay attention to how other people act and what's effective and what's interesting and what works well and what doesn't work well, because you'll learn a lot from the good things that happen as you do from the things that are maybe not as optimal, okay? And here's a pro tip, probably should have mentioned this before, but right before you start the tune, you should, if you have your smartphone on you, I mean, just about everyone has their phone on them all the time. If you have your smartphone on you, go to your voice memo app and press record before you guys play the tune, and put it in your pocket, your phone in your pocket. And then when you finish the tune, you know, hit stop on the recording, and then later that evening or the next day or whatever, you can listen back to your performance with that particular set of musicians and listen back to things and go like, oh, what happened on that second chorus of my solo? Like, the time got weird here. What happened? Did I drop a beat, or did someone rush, or did we get lost in the form? What happened? You know, that's the time you get to like look back and go like, oh, what was that cool thing? What was that crunchy chord the piano player played on the bridge? Those are the cool things you can kind of listen back to, that in the moment, you don't really have time to think about that because you have to be making decisions in the future going forward. But afterwards, you can review everything and then make notes about things like, oh, I got lost at this one point. Why did I get lost? Well, I got lost because maybe, you know, this instrument got too loud, or I got too focused on what I was doing, and so I lost the form, I lost, you know, the groove or whatever. Those are useful things to pick up on that are going to help you learn even more. So I would highly encourage you to record yourself as you're playing, because that's going to give you a chance to review later and learn from your own experiences on the bandstand a second time, right? You're going to learn in the moment while you're doing it, and you're going to learn after the fact, but only if you record it, okay? Because your memory is going to be very foggy and you're not going to remember everything correctly, but recording does not lie, so record yourself. Just like in your practice, you should be recording yourself almost all the time, because that's how you hear accurately what's happening, right? There's a difference between being in the moment and doing and paying attention and making decisions, and then afterwards reviewing a recording where you're not doing, you're only listening. You can now have more brain power to really hone in on the specifics of what's going on, what worked, what didn't work, and then you can make accurate assessments about how you might improve for next time. And that's it. I mean, you just met a bunch of people at the jam session. You were respectful, you listened, you made choices, you took risks, and you were prepared. You had a great time. There's no way to not have a great time. The only time you're not going to have a great time, or you're going to get vibed by people, is if you don't listen, you're there showboating, which once again, you can only do that if you're not listening, you're not aware, right? It's about being aware, mostly. If you're not prepared, you come in, you don't know the tune. If you don't know the tune, you're not doing the work. You're not going to learn a tune on the bandstand, okay? You learn a tune before you get on the bandstand. And on the bandstand, then you make other choices as you're up there communicating with everyone. You know what I'm saying? It's like you're supposed to give a presentation on motorcycles, but if you didn't do any research on motorcycles, how are you going to have an intelligible conversation on motorcycles? You're not, right? You're going to be BSing, you're going to be faking it, and no one wants to hear you fake it. That's not what improvisation is about. It's not about pulling something out of nowhere. Improvisation is the reorganization of things you've already experienced. And the only way you're going to do it well is if you've already experienced the tune in your practice at home. You're not going to experience it for the first time in the bandstand and go, oh, now I'm going to play giant steps out of nowhere. You're not, okay? So learn your tunes beforehand, come with those in the forefront of your mind, ready to play them, and be open, have your ears open, be aware, and communicate. And that's what it's about. That's how you have a great time at a jam session. So if you have any other comments or questions, please leave them in the comments down below. And I hope this was a helpful video for you guys. I'll see you in the next video. Thank you.